time for our next hero. And when this man's name is mentioned in the Everton area, it's just oh, what a great fella he was. His name, Dr. Jerome Connolly. Dr. Connolly came from Ireland in 1936 into Liverpool, and he walked into the Everton area where he saw terrible, terrible deprivation. Kids walking around in bare feet. And what springs to mind? Those Barefoot Days, the song. But it was a terrible time for these kids. Back-to-back terracing, cellars, courts. And he said then, I'm going to help these people. And don't forget that this was long before the welfare state. What did he do? He waived his fees. He helped children with malnutrition, helped children with other diseases such as rickets. And also people had great pride then, albeit that they couldn't afford anything. And yet what did this man do, Dr. Connolly? He used to leave some money on the mantelpiece so that they could buy food, using his anonymity, so people still had pride and dignity. World War II broke out in September 1939, and Dr. Connolly immediately enlisted into the British Army, into the medical corps. Unfortunately, in 1944, during the Anzio landings, he was actually captured. But that didn't keep Dr. Connolly incarcerated. He escaped, and he escaped into the Apennines, where the Italian partisans were fighting the Germans. And what did he do there? He helped people with malnutrition, he helped the wounded, he even helped to deliver babies. He became a cult figure to the Italians. And they said, this Englishman with the red hair, and very, very politely he said, no, I'm not actually English, I'm Irish, because he was a very proud Irishman. Unfortunately, he was recaptured and he was sent to Berlin, where he lost a considerable amount of weight. And when the war was over, obviously, Dr. Connolly was repatriated back to Liverpool, and he got off the train at Lime Street Station, where his partner in his practice, which was in Juvenile Street, greeted him. But Dr. Goldberg didn't recognise him because he was very, very, very thin, skeleton-like. And Dr. Goldberg just put his arms around him and said, he said, I'm so glad that you're back home, because Dr. Connolly shouted him, just didn't recognise him. And he said, I've got some bad news, Jerome. And he said, what's that? Our practice has been bombed during the May Blitz. And Dr. Connolly just laughed, because the irony is that he was incarcerated by the Germans, and yet they still bombed the practice, which was, it was ironic. But this man survived. In fact, he became one of the most popular doctors of the Everton area. And in fact, he was my doctor. And he still left his great legacy here, because he married a Dr. Catherine Foley. They had 7 children, and the majority of them are doctors today around the world. I even know one of them who's a flying doctor in Australia. And as you can hear the plane above, is that a sign? But it's absolutely wonderful to think that myself personally, I'm still a member of his family's doctors, because Dr. Renton is still in the practice that he left to the community of Everton. Thousands of people walk past this building every day, and it's Dr. Connolly's practice. And let me show you the plaque with Dr. Connolly's name still proudly written upon it. And here is his legacy for the Everton community, and his name proudly displayed on the building itself. And always remember when you pass him, the doctor, the Irish doctor with the flaming red hair.